This is Public Voice. I'm Scott Feschuk, and I'm here with Alison Loat from the School of Public Policy and Governance at the University of Toronto and the Samara Project. Why don't you start by telling us a little about the Samara Project?
Sure. Well, Samara is a project that I've co-founded with Michael McMillan. We've been working in sort of the pre-production phase for about a year. Our interest is in really sparking projects to support a stronger culture of public service in Canada. So we're in the early days and trying to get a couple of things off the ground to do that.
Well, and how would you assess the current state of the public service in Canada?
Yeah, it's more than just the public service, but
Yes.
more sort of culturally how we think about public life and public service across the board. I'll answer that by telling you a little bit about sort of where we got to this focus. And we've had a very fascinating year of talking about 250 or so Canadians across the country from all different sort of walks of life, but all who care about it in different ways. And we really asked them, how do you see our policy environment today? What's working, what isn't, and where are some of the gaps? And what can an organization that's sort of new and small but ambitious do to help against some of those gaps? I'd anticipated we hear a lot about some of the policy travails that you can read about every day, from healthcare to our immigration policy and the like. But 95% of the comments were several levels before that, and they talked about things like how we treat people in public life, the way media covers issues, the way we as citizens care or don't care. There were much higher level comments, many steps before you kind of get to figuring out what you're going to do about any one public problem. So that's the area. So that's really what we're trying to figure out, how we can make a contribution to at least chip away.
And to what extent did that surprise you, that reaction from people?
It's surprising me less because I've now sort of been stewing on it for a year, but initially it really did. I thought we were kind of, as I said, come out with a laundry list of policy gripes or issue gripes. So I was surprised to hear that there was so much reflection about, well, actually, sometimes this is an institutional problem, or is this a cultural problem, or we are a country of such affluence, so why are we so unambitious about our public life? I was surprised by the frequency of those kinds of comments. But since I've been out talking to more folks about Samara, it seems to be resonating. So I guess it's surprising me less now than it did a year ago.
In 1994, there was a poll about the respect we have for politicians. Mm-hmm. Obviously, only one aspect of public service. 61% of Canadians support that, or respected politicians. The most recent one a year ago was 25% of Canadians. Mm-hmm. What do you attribute to the huge decline in respect for people who are most visible faces of public service?
I think my immediate instinct on that answer is sort of to say one of two things. One is the media is only interested in covering scandals. All we ever see is negative stories about public servants and politicians. The second instinct is, well, politicians can act like idiots. They don't do themselves any favors, and maybe you might have seen that before. But and those may be, I think that's probably a piece of it. But I think it's actually a lot more complex than that. And it's there's sort of 1,000 decisions that everybody takes every day. So, for example, it's a lot easier sometimes to just go home and lie on the couch than it is to sort of think about something or ask some tough questions.
I find that to be true.
I do too sometimes, yeah. It's a lot easier to sort of make the snarky remark on TV if you're a politician than to sort of slave away in a committee. And I think our reward system recognizes sort of the snarky comments a lot more than maybe the committee work or some of the tougher slogging. There obviously is a lot of constraints facing the media industry and makes it very difficult for them to elucidate public issues in a thoughtful way. So all this to say, I think we have, almost as one of those problems that's so multifaceted that we can sort of all be, everyone's to blame or nothing's to blame. Mm. And so, that's part of the challenge that we're facing and trying to think about the work that we're doing is, what are the little windows that we can start to open to at least sort of constructively shine some light on what is happening in public service that's positive, but also what changes can we make so that it actually becomes a more compelling aspect of life for everybody. Not the least of which are the politicians who probably don't have the easiest lives I wouldn't expect. Now, having been one, but having met some.